Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm very excited to bring you a review for the new Marvel Legends Target exclusive, Ragnarok. Now, if you're not a comic book follower, you might be a little bit confused here. You might be thinking, oh, Thor Ragnarok, that's the name of that movie. Yes. However, the movie only very, very loosely adapted the concept of Ragnarok at all compared to the comics. In the comics, Ragnarok was actually the name of a robotic doppelganger of Thor. It was a robot created by Tony Stark, and he ended up regretting that. Isn't that shocking? Tony Stark made a robot and then ended up regretting it. Weird, right? When does that ever happen? Anyway, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Ragnarok's packaging, then we'll open it up. We'll get a really good look at the figure itself. We'll check out its posability, its multitude of accessories. Naturally, I'll be doing plenty of group shots and comparisons today. And then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So our Ragnarok here comes in the larger, deluxe size Marvel Legends packaging. It's the one that's typically reserved for those $30 give or take figures. And the toy itself is actually a mild recolor of the 80th anniversary Thor figure that has been given a ton of new parts to help set it apart from the actual Thor. And you can see it actually comes packaged with some of these alternate parts installed. So this head with the, half robotic face, very Terminator style, is a new piece, whereas this one you see right here is actually the same as the head on the original Thor. The only difference is that his eyes are painted this creepy red color instead of Thor's normal eye color. And then we see here a robotic hand with no skin over it. But that can be swapped out with this hand, which is, again, the one that came with Thor. We also get the standard version of Mjolnir here. And though it may be difficult to read from here, the engraved text on the side of the hammer may sound very familiar to those of you that have seen the movie or longtime comic readers. It says, "Whoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor." Which is, that little enchantment that Odin put on the hammer in the first Thor movie. So it's a really nice little detail to see that actually recreated here. And it's very well done too, right? You would think with that tiny little text sculpted in that the paint would be a real mess to get in there. But it's not. It came out very well from everything I can tell. And then in addition to the standard Mjolnir, we have this down here. It's a special piece that looks like the hammer is being twirled very quickly and creating that after image effect, when really this is one solid piece. So he gets like a handle in the form of the little tassel, right, that hangs off the bottom here. It looks, kind of compressed together like he's holding it, like he would be if he was swinging the hammer. And then you get these, multiple images of the hammer going in a full circle, and then this really cool little, energy swooshing effect. Really nice piece. And it's something the regular Thor didn't come with because he was just like a standard, $20-ish release. So this right here, I think, makes the set worth it. Like, even if you're not super interested in having a slightly modified, Terminator Thor, this thing right here, really, really awesome. And it would look really great on your 80th anniversary Thor, too. So if you really don't want this guy, but you want the hammer, you could always buy this and then just sell the rest of the toy. I'm sure somebody would buy it. Just something to keep in mind, because, man, that is a great display piece, and you could have all sorts of cool setups with that. All right, moving on to the side of the box, we get this nice artwork of Ragnarok here. Really just looks like Thor with glowing eyes. And then here, we can see a better picture of it, and his hammer appears to be glowing with fire. Now, I didn't read the whole Ragnarok story arc. I don't know, does his hammer have fire power instead of, lightning power? It might. I don't know, it would make sense, right? Ragnarok, very fiery scenery, but who knows? Who knows? It might have just been something done for this image for effect. All right, and then we get this nice bit of flavor text here. And it says, using a lock of the missing Thor's hair, Tony Stark created a cybernetic doppelganger of the Thunder God called Ragnarok. This would prove disastrous, imagine that, when the cyborg betrayed the mighty Avengers. So, good bit of backstory, really tells you about the character's origin, where he comes from, and, kind of where he ends up. And as usual, Tony Stark makes a robot with the best of intentions that ends up betraying everybody and becoming a supervillain. So, good job, Tony. One day you might learn. So yeah, very cool release. Now, I sadly do not own the 80th anniversary Thor figure. That has since come and gone at regular retail, and it goes for some pretty crazy prices on the secondary market. So, very unfortunately, I won't be able to compare this toy to that one. In fact, the only Thor figures I own are MCU versions, so they really don't line up with this guy at all. But I do have some nice classic Avengers figures that I can, pit this guy against for some nice group shots. Okay, so we spent a good while on the packaging, but, honestly, there's a lot to look at here, so I think it was worth the time. Now that we've done that, however, it's time to open this up. Okay, now we get Ragnarok out of the box, and we see everything he comes with. He has his standard Mjolnir here, the text inscribed on it. He has a spinning Mjolnir with text inscribed on all of the hammerheads, which is, really extensive detailing there. And one thing I didn't realize till I got this out, the spinning hammer actually spins. Look at that, huh? That's a really nice touch right there. We also get his undamaged face, which as far as I can tell is just the same sculpt as the regular Thor face. It's just got those creepy glowing eyes now. And then we get the undamaged hand, which is again taken straight from the 80th anniversary Thor. So now we can see Ragnarok himself. Look at this guy. He's a bruiser. Very, very tall character. Not as tall as, say, the Hulk, but much bigger than your average, human male. So, most of this guy appears to just be the 80th anniversary Thor. I think even the colors are the same shade, or if they're not the same, they're very, very close. So he's got this really nice sculpted flowing cape, kind of drapes over his shoulders and lifts up a little bit so that, one, it looks like it's blowing in the wind, but also he gets, a better range of motion in his shoulders. It's made out of a fairly soft rubber. I think it's the same kind that comes with the new Thor Ragnarok wave, which is ironic, right? Because this is Ragnarok from Thor. Which is a good thing, because that nice flexible material allows you to, get all sorts of poses in without a cape or a robe or something hindering that posability. So really nice there. You do just have to worry about the fact that it's probably a little more fragile than the firmer stuff. So I'd be especially careful here, where it connects to the shoulders. Don't put too much stress there. We also have these rubberized wings right here on his head, as well as his hair, which is a bit stiffer. And we get that new face sculpt, which, looks a lot like the regular one from, this half, but then it gets this whole Terminator thing going on where the mouth is kind of torn away and the cheekbone and teeth are showing and this, fuller look at his eyeball, sticking out of the socket there. So really creepy looking. And then, of course, we get that new hand, which looks a lot like a Terminator hand. It's made out of seemingly a much softer plastic than the regular fleshy hand. You can feel how pliable it is, and it kind of almost scares me to pull it apart because it bends so easily, and I don't want to bend anything back or crease it or snap it off. So I would just be a little bit careful with this hand. It doesn't feel as sturdy as the regular one. All right, so he has these universal shoulders, which are great. Cover which way, bicep swivel, double bend elbows. He's got universal wrists. And like a lot of other figures, his main weapon holding hand has the wrist hinge going this way, so he can swing the weapon better. That's just a regular hinge here. He has a ball-jointed upper torso, which doesn't really get a lot of range, but still allows him to get some natural bends in there. And he also does have a waist swivel, so even better for articulation. He's got universal hips, which actually splay out quite far. Go up and down. He's got thigh swivels, double bend knees right here. He has a boot swivel, about a quarter of the way down the boot or so. And then he's got your standard ankle articulation of rocking and rotation. Rotation's a little bit ratcheted, so it's usually good for bigger figures so that you don't have things sliding around. So overall, really, really nice. He's not markedly different from the standard Thor, but that's kind of the point, right? Ragnarok is supposed to be a doppelganger, so he's supposed to look like Thor. All right, and now to check out his parts, let's go ahead and swap out his robotic features for the standard ones. So you just pull his head off. Now, luckily, it's not very hard to get off, but it's by no means loose either, so it's kind of perfect. Oh yeah, he's got the neck hinge too. Though, with all that hair, he can't really look very far up or down. He looks down about that much, up about that much, that's it. All right, so regular face with the creepy eyes, and we'll very carefully remove the robotic hand. His braces are a separate piece that just come off, so you can take them off if you want to for customizing or whatever. And we'll put the regular hand on here, like summoning lightning hand. Or maybe reciting Shakespeare hand, who knows. Alright, so now he looks a lot like your 80th anniversary Thor. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to buy this toy as a stand-in for that one. I've already seen a lot of people on Facebook groups and stuff discussing that. I imagine some will even go as far as like paint his eyes a different color. And honestly, I don't blame them, because doing so is a lot cheaper than tracking down the actual Thor toy, which goes for quite a bit of money now that it's been gone off shelves for a while. So yeah, whether you want to buy this guy for the new Ragnarok features or as a stand-in for your Thor, he really fills both roles quite well. All right, and of course, we have Mjolnir. So he's got the one weapon holding hand, kind of a groove sculpted in the palm, specifically to hold weapons like this. And he can just hold it like so. Looking pretty cool. So that is a nice touch right there. Looks like just your classic comic book Thor. Very nice. Or we give him the new one. This new one's pretty cool. All right. So you want him to hold it, I believe, with this like underhanded, like so. I think that's the way he would naturally hold that. Oh, it's a little loose there. A little on the loose side. It's actually a lot on the loose side. Not digging that. Maybe, I guess he would hold it like this? I don't know. Oh. He doesn't want to hold that very well, does he? Okay, so you're going to get something along these lines right here. Be aware the fit in your Thor's hand may not be perfect. Mine certainly is not. Definitely want to get the wider end in there, but even so, it's not great. All right, so you get him in there, and of course it's great for static posing because it's already got that motion effect going on. Or you can spin it, if it'll actually spin in his hand, right? Really doesn't like holding this thing. So you can get it doing that, which is very, very cool. A lot of options. So you can give him, two different forms of Mjolnir, either a stationary one or a moving one. Different combinations of damaged or undamaged parts. This release definitely has a lot more play value than the regular Thor, which just came with like his weapon and no extra parts at all. Here's a quick height comparison so you can see just how tall Thor/Ragnarok actually is. So here we of course have Iron Man, aka Tony Stark, who is just a normal-sized adult male, right? Just not particularly tall or particularly short. I think he's, somewhere around 6 foot or so, good representation. And then the Hulk, who's supposed to be, 7, 8 feet tall. So we can see that our Thor robot here, not counting his helmet wings, stands pretty much halfway in height between a normal man and the Hulk. So he is a big guy. Like, Thor has always been larger than most humans, but not quite so large to where he falls in that, giant heavyweight category, like characters like the Hulk or Abomination, Armadillo, Thanos, things like that. But he's still easily big enough to intimidate just about any grown man alive. I know for certain that if I saw this guy bearing down on me, I would be, having flashbacks of my life up to that point, because I don't think I'd be around much longer. And here's just a fun group shot of the Avengers confronting Ragnarok after he turns on them. And fittingly, I have our 20th anniversary Avengers here, our Captain America, Iron Man, and Hulk, which works out because these toys were just derived from the 80th anniversary versions. So they're just like Ragnarok in that regard. These are all based off of sculpts from that subline. So I think that's pretty neat, and I think they all work very, very well together. They all have their classic comic book appearance. Aesthetically, they match up quite well. I think Iron Man's colors are a little bit bright compared to the rest. I think his more gold-colored 80th anniversary version, suits the scene better, but it's close enough. Plus, I haven't had much luck in tracking down any of those, so I just kind of have to settle for this setup right now. But I think it looks really good. If you take these figures, take any other classic Avengers you might have, maybe your Walmart Doctor Strange, classic Ant-Man, anything like that, you can recreate some really nice battle scenes between our good guys and their wayward robot doppelganger. And this completes our look at the new Marvel Legends Ragnarok. I think this toy is really cool in that it serves kind of two purposes. It serves as a new character and our first ever figure of Ragnarok, but also serves as a potential stand-in for people that maybe missed out on the old Thor. Because unlike a lot of his other Avenger buddies that we saw here in that last scene, he didn't get a 20th anniversary update. At least so far he hasn't. Maybe it'll come. But then again, those were all based on the first wave of Toy Biz toys, so probably not, because he wasn't in that wave. It's unfortunate. But, you know, this guy does work as a viable replacement, especially if you don't mind customizing a little bit. You can always paint those eyes, you know, a natural color, or maybe paint them blue like his lightning powers. You got some options there. Plus, he comes with a lot of cool stuff the original didn't, especially his spinning hammer. So, yeah, really phenomenal toy. Well worth the $30 to pick him up. He is a Target exclusive, so he might be a little bit hard to track down compared to some other things. Though Target's usually good about exclusives. It's usually something like Walmart or Walgreens that tends to be a little bit more of a pain to get a hold of, especially Walmart lately, when they're doing like online-only exclusives instead of stocking stuff on shelves. Target exclusives, once they hit saturation, they tend to stick around for a while and usually go on clearance. So if you want this guy, and you live in the US at least, you'll probably be able to get him. And I think he's well worth the cost. Because even if you already have, you know, the regular Thor toy, this is still Ragnarok. Like, you still get one of his more famous villains to go toe-to-toe with him. And you can always borrow his hammer and give it to Thor if you really want Thor to have that really cool hammer. So I think it's a win-win. Yeah, it is. It's a little samey, and, you know, 90% of the actual figure is just the Thor toy. But, I mean, what else are you going to do? It's Ragnarok. He's supposed to look exactly like Thor. If you change too much about him, people will complain that he doesn't actually look like Thor. So I'm happy with it. Especially since, you know, like I said, I don't have the Thor toy. And I think whether you have the regular Thor or you don't, I think most people will be very much happy with this toy too. Of course, that is just how I feel about this figure. So now I want to know what you all think of it. Are you excited to pick this up? Are you interested in having, you know, a robotic doppelganger for Thor? Or maybe you just want to pick this up for the cool hammer and stuff? Or do you not want this? Maybe you just don't really care about the character, or he's too much like the Thor toy. Maybe you don't like the way he came out. Any and all feedback is always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this very exciting look at the new Target exclusive Marvel Legends Ragnarok. And with all that said, I will see you next time.